You mentioned the NAM, which is the North American model. So what I want to explain to folks, and I'm going to have some visuals here in a second, is what that means. Now, as forecasters and meteorologists, we don't just take what the computer says and stick it back out and that's our forecast. We're going to interpolate that data. But it is nice to have this visualization, not only for our own understanding of how the atmospheric tug of war is going to play out, but also to show you at home. This is essentially that futurecast you see on TV, but it comes in several different flavors. There's the NAM, there's the GFS, there's a European one, and Scotty even mentioned that we're waiting for some of the more short term. And so as we get closer to the weekend, we get these other models that only go out in a few hours as opposed to a few days. And so we get more and more opinions, if you will, on what this situation is going to look like, because the key difference between these different models is they all kind of weigh things a little bit differently. They have different priorities, just like people would have different personalities. And I just want to show you what exactly that looks like. And so I'm going to go ahead and pop up the College of DuPage website, which has some of those models on it. I'm starting with the North American model. There is a run coming in right now, and it only shows me, I don't know, about 6 hours out. That's not helpful. So I'm going to go back to their data from earlier today. And what Scotty was talking about when he says we're waiting on more data, I can go ahead and I can play this, and we're jumping ahead in, about 3 hour intervals or so. And you can't see what I'm sliding. It's off the edge of the screen. But if I slide this all the way out, this is the very last frame that the North American NAM model has right now, which is late Saturday, which is like the most climactic place to stop in this forecast, because it's just as the system is rolling into the Carolinas. Green is rain, blue is snow, purple is ice. And then that sleet is pink. So let me just show you, for point of comparison, a lot of the projections you've seen here in the Carolina Weather Group and on television this week in terms of quote-unquote future casts have been the GFS global model. And so as you can see, I can scroll through this one and I can make it through the actual event. And we can talk about what we're seeing here, because this is not set in stone yet. But you can see I can make my way all the way through the event and into the start of next week. So right now we have essentially two models that show us the weekend. It is this GFS model and the European model, and I'm only allowed to show you the GFS one because I'm not licensed to show you the Euro one. However, we will have, before daybreak, more data coming in from that NAM model, so we anxiously await that perspective. And then as we head into about the Friday timeframe, we'll start getting these short-term, high-definition runs coming in from models called HRRR, for those of you keeping score at home. So that was a mouthful just to give you a visualization, but I think what the guys and I have been trying to convey is we're getting a sense of confidence on the forecast, but we're not exactly sure yet just how far south this cold air is going to come. And having lived in Charlotte now 4 or 5 years, I know this is the thing that can really bite you with the snow forecast, because in a county like Mecklenburg, at Lake Norman, you could have a foot of snow, and at Ballantine, along the South Carolina border, you could have nothing.
James, let me
please.
Can I ask you to go back to the GFS and the NAM, and I want to show you why getting.
Do you
more
want me
data,
to go to the wall?
Yeah, let's go to the wall. Or I want to show you the. Okay. I want you to go to the very last NAM frame that we had from the previous run, and then I want you to go to where the GFS says it's going to start. And this is why this short-term data is more useful. Jared, you and Chris, please jump in if you want. But I want to show you this new NAM run, which is coming in. The data is suggesting that the NAM is actually painting a little bit of a colder picture for this precipitation. I want to show you why we noticed this. So
nerd talk. Which NAM run did you want on the screen right now?
Not the one that's going out right now. The previous, I guess it was
previous one. And you want me to take it to the moment it stops, right?
Yeah, go to the very last frame.
Okay,
so
that's
here's the very last
hours
frame.
Out.
So here's 84 hours out. If you look into North Georgia, you start to see that ice, snow, sleet mixture. Now, if you go to the GFS at the same time frame.
Sure. Okay. Stand by. So this is, by the way, when we say 84 hours out, that is as Saturday turns into Sunday. All right. Making my way
So as we
there.
go to the GFS right here, you can see that cold air on the GFS is not into northern Georgia. So that to me says the NAM is depicting that this cold air damming, the CAD that we talk about, the Carolina wedge, there's so many words for it, but the high pressure to our northeast is stronger on the NAM than it is showing on the GFS. Now, the NAM is taking that short range model data. It's kind of like hitting a football off. The GFS and the European are really good for long to moderate range forecasting, but once we get into the short term, we also look at the NAM because it's able to digest the data that's being fed into it a little bit better, and that's telling me that we may have a little bit of a colder scenario taking place. So it's going to be interesting to see the previous runs, the next few runs that come out the GFS, on if that high pressure to our northeast is getting stronger and stronger like the NAM has depicted with the last run. And if that happens, Chris, that could actually bring some colder temperatures more into your part of the world.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Looking at the 18Z NAM versus the 18Z GFS, you get a 1026 isobar line going right across South Carolina, and the NAM's got a 1032 just about in the same spot. So that's a 6 millibar difference. And that's showing a stronger, just like you said, stronger high pressure, more cold air getting shoved in here from the northeast, making that wedge a little bit stronger. So that's definitely something to look at. And also, you want to look at the track of the load and see if that causes the track of the load to go a little further south. Something I'm really anxious to see is once this load crosses the Florida Panhandle, does it ride the coast, or does it try to follow the Gulf Stream? And I really think it's going to stay a little further offshore and try to ride that warmer water. But,
and Jared, this is the meat of meteorology. This is how we nerd out. We look at all this stuff, and this is how model data is good, but this is how we determine that forecast. You, as of all people living in the Charleston area, those storms are a little bit more attracted to the warmer waters off the coast.
Yes, absolutely, they are. And something else to talk about with the NAM real quick. And we've been talking about this internally in our chat, and we've been talking about this. We're sitting in a North Carolina forecasters chat on Facebook, which is great. And something about the NAM, and something that we learned last year from the NAM, is that it did a very good job, a surprisingly good job with our snow issue last year. It did a very good. It was like, oh no, it's out of whack. It's the NAM's drunk. Go home. No, it wasn't. No, it was actually doing okay. It did a pretty good job of illustrating how that event would go. And as we get closer and closer to the event, we're then going to be able to even see it in even higher resolution. And that's going to help us fine tune those snowfall totals. It's going to help us fine tune that rain, snow line, rain, snow, ice, possibly, hopefully not, but that looks like that's certainly a possibility with any CAD situation. But the NAM tends to perform very well with CAD, especially in the last couple of years. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shapes up. I do agree that it's going to try and follow the warmer waters on the Gulf Stream. I just, I think that high pressure, again, the globals are probably going to underdo. They're probably going to underdo the strength of that high. I think the NAM has a good idea on that. Of course, you get in the 12 kilometer, and then we get into the 3 kilometer. I think that's when we're really going to be able to nail down what is what with this thing. As for Charleston, just a cold rain. So